but that was a big risk I was willing to take because ultimately I was so sure in myself that I could figure it out.
All right, man. Excited to have you on today. Some interesting topics that we're going to be covering. So mostly around really the psychology of us as founders, founding teams. We've spent a lot of time really around startups over the last couple of years, all the way from Silicon Valley to now back to New York. Startups that we built ourselves, startups that our friends have built. So I think we've definitely seen a lot of the ups and downs of the journey of building companies. We felt them ourselves. So really just curious to explore some of those themes, for the next half hour. So I'm really curious to hear from your perspective. Like, really, when was when was the first time that you actually felt like genuine fear as a founder? And what I mean by that is like not just stress or pressure, but like actual fear. Like, this is not going to work. This is falling apart. I'm sure you have plenty of stories around that. So yeah, walk me through a time where you actually kind of have felt this, like, oh shit, maybe this is not going to work.
Yeah. I think actually I have a specific memory in mind for when I felt the most fear. And I think that was back when when I was working at Leap, right? I actually ended up deciding to quit and open up my own gaming studio. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drop everything and I'm gonna try to do this thing. The whole thing was like an AI generated games studio, right? All on my own. I was like, you know what? I can do this. I basically like sold all my investments on Robinhood, and I'm like, I'm gonna use this as
I'm
my
all in.
yeah, I'm all in. I'm gonna use this as my piggy bank, you know. Um, so I did that for like 2 months, I think, and it was extremely stressful. I was like trying to build a game and at the same time trying to see if I can find a co-founder. Um, it was all kind of very unorganized,
Hmm.
and maybe that led to the demise of it. Eventually, I ended up, like giving up on it, and I think I ended up joining back on Leap on the tail end. But yeah, I think taking all that challenge as like a solo founder was very um very extreme and like I said, very stressful. Trying to build the game or in other companies who would be like trying to build a product by yourself. I basically had no experience in the scene, so I was like learning as I went, learning as I go, creating the game, trying to sell it at the same time, like selling the
Hmm.
vision, the pitch deck. Um, how do you even run a gaming studio? All these questions in my head. Um, but I'm kind of glad I went for it. It kind of taught me a valuable lesson on how rough it is,
Yeah.
especially to be like a solo founder in anything, right? It doesn't have to be gaming; it could be something else. But definitely having some co-founders like to help close the gaps in certain expertise like helps a lot.
Yeah, so I'm curious to like understand more, like, I guess the difference in mindset from when you first started the idea, right? So at some point you decided, hey, this makes a lot of sense. I'm all in. I'm gonna go for this. And then at some point in that journey, the tides changed, right? And now it became like, I really don't think this is gonna work out. So I'm curious if you can help me understand like what that felt like in the moment, right? Like, what were the thoughts going on at the beginning when you really decided to go for it, and then why did that change, and how did that change, and what
Yeah,
was the sort of like the evolution of what's going through your head during this entire sort of arc
yeah,
of the up, and then I guess the down.
yeah, yeah. I think I started very optimistic. Of course, I was like, I can do this. I don't see why not. I can figure it out. I'll go raise money. Like no one has done this before. Like open a full AI gaming studio. There's only been like a few people that try to do it but haven't done it. I'm like, I can easily raise money for this. I think that was probably like, my mistake, is overly optimistic on it being easy to get the money,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, oh, all I have to do is just launch a prototype, and then I can easily get the money. Um, so the first kind of like few weeks, I spent working on the prototype, developing the game, coming up with some few ideas, getting feedback from people. Some people said like it was interesting, but there wasn't anyone that was like, "Holy shit!" Like, yeah, this is the next crazy game or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but either way, I kept on iterating on it. Eventually, I had a prototype, and then I just started sharing with people, trying to see if they know someone that could be interested. Having a bunch of talks with different people, and then realizing that actually none of them really care that much about it. Um, I think what they cared more about was kind of like using AI agents fully, like more like experiments, not like an actual game. And my vision was more like I want to build an actual game that's fun, not like a little AI lab, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it turns out most people just wanted to do that AI lab kind of experimentation, like they want to invest in those things, not in actual
Do you
games.
still believe in that vision?
Um, yeah, I think it's possible. Like I do see a world where people can we can have so I guess the maybe this is part of the misconception that people had is that I wasn't trying to make the game, like I wasn't trying to vibe code the game. Like obviously I would use AI tools to help me build the game, but I wasn't trying to like open up Lovable and create me a game that does this. What I was trying to do is actually pitch the game as like this is an AI native game where the mechanics of the game are using AI, but it's only in order to make the experience better.
Hmm.
It wasn't for like, trying to take away work from people. But I think in this industry, in the gaming industry, a lot of people took it as, oh, I'm just trying to automate the whole process of making a game. And, I think
Okay.
that
Yeah. I
was
think
one of
people
the
in the gaming
issues.
industry are a little bit sensitive about,
Yeah.
job replacement.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess at which point, like, what shifted your idea from obviously, so people aren't really giving you a warm reception as
Yeah.
you're pitching this. You have a vision for something unique and interesting, and then you're getting this feedback from
Yeah.
employees, investors, whoever you're essentially approaching with this. Um, so at which point did you, because it sounds like you still believe partly in the vision, right? It's like
Yeah.
someone could make this, it could work. I guess why didn't you continue working on that? And what shifted your perspective from, yeah, I'm going to make this happen against all odds, at the beginning towards, you know what, like I think I'm out. Like this is not really the opportunity that I'm going to pursue.
Yeah. I think at some point I realized that maybe people wanted to see like an actual built out game of it, and I just didn't have enough time to build it. I didn't have enough money, right, to fund myself basically to keep building it.
Hmm.
Um, I think also it was like a little bit depressing, kind of uh like building on your own,
Hmm.
in my apartment, and just yeah, it was very like demotivating rather.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it came down to just a money constraint.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
So
like
the
if I didn't have that, if I had some initial funding, I would definitely have uh, tried it out completely.
yeah.
But at that moment in time, I didn't have the resources, or I guess I couldn't risk running out of money and then being homeless or something.
Okay. So you took on some risk initially, and then it started, as the war chest began to dwindle, it became
Yeah,
more intense
yeah,
in terms of like
it
there's
became
actual
more
consequences to running
exactly
out of cash.
right. Running out of cash
Yeah.
became more stressful, became more like doom
Yeah.
setting. But yeah,
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from this is essentially like there is a certain level of risk that you have to be able to tolerate as an entrepreneur. right?
Yes.
And many times in your career, and look, I've been through this myself as well, but you have to take some risk, and then sometimes you fail, and that doesn't work out the way you envisioned it to work, and you have to almost reset, and then maybe go out again and take more risk again once you're able to
Yeah.
sort of capitalize yourself again. So what's your whole take on the risk that people really need to bear? And another corollary to this is, you talk to people all the time, friends and whatnot, and people essentially sometimes they look at entrepreneurs and they're like, "Oh, you have it so good, it's so easy for you," and they almost forget to notice that, in fact, in order to get that and to achieve what you have done, there's an enormous amount of risk that you have to take on. So
Yeah.
what's been your experience with that in terms of, I guess, people that you've interacted with, their perspective, and what's your overall take on, I guess, how to think about risk, as an entrepreneur, as a founder?
Um, I think just kind of going for it. Like I've done a lot of risky, decisions.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, I've worked for startups for like almost like 8 years now, and
Hmm.
every now and then, it's been like bouncing around back and forth between different things, different projects, my own startups. Uh, but yeah, if you really want to make it, like if you want to be extremely successful, you do need to take a lot of risk. I don't think there's any way unless you get lucky and you're like, your dad is rich and he just gives you like here's the startup.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're kind of like if you're a nobody, right, and you want to become a somebody, um yeah, you need to put in the work, you need to take risk. You can't just be comfortable all the time. Um like I did a lot of practice on kind of making myself be uncomfortable. So, going out, yeah, grabbing coffee with random people, um, and
So I
just
guess
like,
what kinds of risks would you say you take? So you just alluded to there's financial risk, right? Like you're
yeah,
putting your own money on the line. There's sounds like also like social risk, right? From
hmm
being embarrassed and going out and meeting someone and choking halfway through a, let's say, an investor conversation. You don't actually know what you're talking about because you're learning this thing for the first time. I guess what kinds of risk have you sort of experienced and you think have been critical to, I guess, to your journey?
yeah. I think, like you said, financial risk, also, like career path,
Hmm.
risk, right? So everyone told me, stay in college, um, or go to college. I actually dropped out like first semester, but and everyone's was against it. They were like, "Oh, like, what? Like, are you crazy? What are you doing? You shouldn't do that. You should, stick to your degree." But that was a big risk I was willing to take because ultimately I was so sure in myself that I could figure it out, right? So let's see what other kinds of risks. Um, yeah, like you said, socially. I mean, also there's something about sacrificing uh, like a part of you, right? Like in terms of like you're gonna work very hard, and you might not be able to hang out with people as much as you want,
Yeah.
but that's kind of like a necessary evil, at least for a few years, in order for you to succeed in the startup world.
Yeah. Which would you say has been like the toughest sacrifice or risk that you've taken over the last couple of years?
Um, I don't know. That's a hard one to pinpoint.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe when I got started, like when uh, I used to live in Miami, right? That's where I grew up, and I basically moved to New York with nothing, with kind of just a I'll figure it out kind of mentality,
Hmm.
but leaving all my friends behind, my family as well, right? And just kind of going on this journey, to figure it out. I didn't even know at the time I wanted to do startups, but I think I always had that mentality of, whatever it is, I'm gonna figure it out and I'll be fine, basically.
Yeah. So essentially walking away from your entire life to I guess, venture into the unknown, right? On
Yeah,
the belief that,
venture into the promised land, right? Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like New York is the land of, or like the city of opportunity, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I'll give it a shot.
You didn't even
Yeah,
know which opportunity. It
I
was
don't know
more like,
which
I
opportunity.
know there's many opportunities,
Yeah,
and I just have to go for this.
yeah. I mean, I will also like to hear your perspective on your biggest risk.
Yeah, I think. I mean, there's always opportunity risk, right? Like, I've at many times have had position where my career is working and you're making good money.
Hmm.
And I remember just going from making, roughly like 200K in cash. This is like maybe 2019, 20. And just walking away from all of that. And next thing you know, I have a startup and I'm paying myself, I think it was like, my wife killed me, but it was like 30 grand a year or something, like bare minimum making ends meet, like definitely subsidized by her income at the time.
Hmm.
And obviously that's unpopular, right? In terms of like it doesn't make sense on paper that you're gonna go
Yeah.
do this thing that has a 90% chance of failure to begin with. And in the meantime, you're going to be earning like below, you know, livable wage or barely a livable wage, coming from already, six figures established, having a great lifestyle. So I think most people just probably don't take that avenue because it's too comfortable, right? Like you're already set up in a life that you enjoy, and then you immediately go into, oh, I'm going to choose to struggle,
Hmm.
um, for the promise of maybe making something work, which most of the time it doesn't, right? And I think for most people, if you look at your career path, it's you probably make more money by just sticking to what you're doing and just doubling down and saving.
Yeah.
I think it definitely takes a certain amount of passion to pursue entrepreneurship, and if you get lucky, you can actually have an outsized return on your investment, but it's definitely not a guarantee. Um, so yeah, I would say definitely like that financial and comfort risk was one. I think also with that comes a bit of a almost like a reputational risk, right? Again, you already have a certain position in life, um, and then you go out and now you're like this, scrappy founder, basically starting from scratch again. So if you base your entire sense of identity on look at me, I've made it, and then you go into hitting the reset button, and now I'm just
Yeah.
a little guy trying to sell your first copy of your product or
Yeah.
whatever. I think there's definitely a toll that some people can take on you. Um,
So
so
I'm
definitely it's
curious.
not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear from you. Like, what made you keep going? Like, what made you keep trying to do more startups? Like, what? Why not quit after the first loss? Right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like an irrational belief in yourself, and also the a bit of idealism on the journey. I think you get enamored with the vision of what this could be.
hmm,
So the idea of succeeding as an entrepreneur and as a founder just felt like just very compelling to try, because if it works,
yeah,
it would
and
be an amazing life to live.
you've had times, right, where you actually did go back to having a normal job, and then you hated
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
So,
But that came after. I didn't expect that to be
right,
the case. That's the funny thing is I
right,
always expected that I could fall back on my skills and my career path, and those doors would always be open for me. And when I actually tried it, out of necessity because I needed a paycheck, it turns out that I've outgrown the the sort of employability, right? And going back to an actual job just felt extremely limiting in terms of my ability to do my best work, to express myself, to have autonomy, to have freedom, to have decision making, sort of like power, and I didn't expect that. I always expected I can always fall back on my career path, but it turns out that I haven't felt it so miserable since I did
yeah.
that briefly,
So you're
because
saying that,
you get so used to the journey of being a founder that going
yeah,
back to not having that was just awful, was just depressing for me.
yeah. So you're saying, yeah, going back to a stable job, you're 9 to 5, maybe you're working less hours, right? You're working not as hard,
Yeah.
but it wasn't as satisfying as working as a
Not
founder,
at all.
basically.
Yeah, and you know, you take it for granted. Like you go through the struggles as a founder, and you sometimes think, oh, this is really tough, and you know, grass is always greener. So, oh, having the job and having the stability will let me breathe for a little bit. And it turns out it was the opposite. It was way more suffocating than the struggle of being a founder. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, now I know that, and at least it's reset my perception of that for a number of years. I'm sure.
Hmm.
Maybe it won't in the future. I'll you know, knock on wood, that this continues to work. But you know,
Yeah.
if I ever find myself in need and consider that, hopefully I'll remember sort of the
Yeah.
you
That
know
you're
that specific experience.
that you're unemployable and that you would hate it,
I think so. I
basically.
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hard pill to swallow because I think the deeper you go, the more you get used to it. But I definitely see that as I can't look back anymore. I have to only look forward and actually make this
Yeah.
thing work.
Yeah. But also,
Do you
I
feel
think
this?
you just love it so much that you don't care, right? It's kind of like, what else would
Yeah.
you do? You know, like you just
No, and also
that's the default.
I think the more you keep doing it, the more resilient you become to some of the ups and downs, and the more doors open to you. So, for instance, once you raise, you know, VC money, you start developing relationships with investors, and that opens
Hmm.
up doors to go to venture capital, or that opens up doors to raise from them in the future if they think that you're a competent founder and they want to invest in people in the long run.
Yeah.
So in a way, it becomes easier the more reps you have.
Right.
So in that sense, I think it makes perfect sense to double down and just keep going and just um, yeah, just capitalize on the fact that you're going deeper and deeper into the levels of being a founder. Like this is the first time at Comp AI we're about to raise our next round. Can't say too much about that just yet, but this is essentially the first time that I've reached that milestone of like rate of being
Yeah.
at the
Your biggest
precipice of
round
yeah,
ever.
raising the biggest, the most amount of money you've ever raised, the biggest team
Yeah.
you've ever had, the most ambitious projects we've ever gone after. So that all feels great, and that would not be possible had we not gone through the previous reps of trying as hard as you can and then getting stuck, maybe a step before what we're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. How about you? Do you think you're also unemployable, or would you ever consider going back?
Um. Yeah. I feel like I would probably end up in the same boat of I don't know. You get in this loop of like misery. Like even though let's say you have a really high paying job, but then like the routines just
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it. You don't get to choose what you work on. You don't get a say into like what happens. It's all like super like political, right? Like everything you
Yeah.
do, it has to be through a meeting. It has to be a ticket somewhere.
Yeah.
There's someone bossing you around, and your life depends on that person. So yeah, I don't think uh, I don't think I would be able to do that either. I would figure something out, but
Something on.
again, that's always been my mentality of like
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna figure it out, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's slightly irrational, but we just
Yeah,
do it, and then you get used to it, and then you enjoy the
I
journey
mean,
so much that you keep doing it.
it's worked out so far, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's not easy to do to take on that amount of risk and to continually, you know, go into the unknown and trying to make things work, and that definitely takes a toll, right? In terms of your, you know, that not everyone's able to handle, like the
Hmm.
psychological pressures, the stress, the uncertainty. So I think there's a couple of threads that we can pull there. Specifically, I think one of the superpowers that you acquire from doing this kind of thing is you essentially learn how to make decisions with incomplete data sets,
Yeah,
right? So as much as you want to, again, think, should I quit my job or not quit my job? Is this going to work or not? Well, guess what? Like, you know, like you're not really going to ever have perfect certainty around that. Maybe you should have stayed at your job and that would have been more, more lucrative. Um, so at some point you have to kind of pull the trigger on
yeah.
this, on things that are not necessarily certain. So I'm curious how you approach making decisions that aren't necessarily fully clear and flushed out, and you know, how does that manifest all the way from the macro in terms of big life decisions all the way to, you know, the way we operate day to day at a startup.
Um, yeah, I think that most of it is just kind of gut feeling, and I've kind of built it over time. Um, Pretty much every single time I've made a risky decision has been based on my gut. Even though maybe logically it's like it doesn't make sense. You ask people around you, but again, those people around you are the safe people that don't like taking risk, right?
Mhm.
So everything they're gonna tell you is don't do it, uh, go the safe path. Um, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have like a like it's not like I think about it too hard. I kind of just I hear a lot of opinions from different people, and then I kind of just go with the one that makes the most sense to me. And I
Mhm.
don't have like a rubric on what what makes sense to me, but it's yeah, it's mostly just like a feeling. Like I'm like this
Yeah.
feels like the right thing, even though I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And I know it's it's not helpful advice. Maybe the advice is just to trust your gut. I don't know if there's a case where someone's gut is always wrong, but
I think,
you know,
my take on that is I think your gut gets trained over time, so your gut
yeah,
might be wrong at the beginning, right? But I
yeah,
think as you trust it and make that decision and get that information of what happened with that decision, that feeds straight into the same system. Like we absorb a lot of information from it, and that influences the way that we're going to perceive that situation in the future. And I think we often see this, for example, when we're hiring. I think this come up a few times, right?
yeah,
Where you evaluate a candidate and you're like, I've seen this story play out
uh huh,
before, and it kind of hits a couple of patterns, and I'm a little bit more suspicious this time, so I'm gonna trust my gut to
yeah,
say I'm gonna pass on this person, um,
yeah.
for
Yeah, same
reasons
thing
that
with like
maybe,
on that
yeah,
topic, like first impressions, right? Like
right,
you meet someone, and the first impression you get, like your gut is like telling you no, right?
yeah,
Like that's you should listen to that. Like
yeah,
there's a reason why it's saying that,
yeah,
and usually when you don't listen to it, it
bad
ends up
things happen.
like being worse, right, in the future.
Yeah, yeah,
So and same thing the other way around when you say yes, right? When you're like, this feels right, like this
yeah,
person or whatever,
yeah. And sometimes you can't justify the good ones, right? It's like you're just excited
right?
about
You're like,
something.
I
You're
don't know
like,
why, but
it doesn't make
this
sense. I
person
know
is
it doesn't.
it.
Yeah, or this opportunity,
Yeah,
it doesn't make financial sense, but like I have a feeling it's gonna work out, and you
yeah,
just kind of have to bite the bullet and just do it anyway.
yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about it before in other media or whatever, but my decision to join Lewis in comp, like at the
Hmm.
beginning, that was all just gut, basically.
Yeah,
Like again, Lewis pitched me on it. And the same day, I was interviewing with a bunch of companies, right? Big companies, lots of big salaries. Sorry, um, and I ended up turning all of them down for comp
yeah,
because I just felt this was the right the right choice.
yeah,
Uh, we didn't have a lot of funding back then, so I was obviously going to take a pay cut.
yeah.
Than these
And
big
maybe it didn't work,
companies,
right? And you
and
might have been in the
yeah,
same
maybe it didn't
position
work,
a
and I
couple
would be
months down the
searching
road.
for a job again, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I kind of just went for it, right? It was super risky. Again, I was moving from SF to New York. I didn't have any savings because I had just spent it on my little gaming fiasco,
hmm.
right? So there's no fallback, in that case. But I just went for it.
Yeah,
It felt like the right thing to do, and I mean, look at us now, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely think you need to become attuned to how to listen to that, and quite frankly, I think in my experience, also, it never feels comfortable. Like I feel like you always know what your gut says, but even being able to trust it and still make that decision where you lean into it and make that call, it comes with always a bit of uncertainty, right? So my gut says this, but it's still 60% yes, right? Or
Hmm.
something. And it's that other 40% that's going to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, and you feel it and you're paralyzed, even though you know that that's the right decision. For some
Yeah,
reason, it's never perfect. So I think for me at least, there's always an element of fear, right? Of like, what if my gut is wrong? That you're always going to try to rationalize it.
yeah,
Um, but I feel like that's the part you need to override and like do it anyway. Like you already know the answer. Yes, it is scary, but you have to
exactly.
do it. You have to do it anyway.
And sometimes you do take your time to rationalize it,
Yeah,
but then you always end up coming back to
I think you always do.
yeah, you come back to it, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
even though it's again 60-40% whatever.
Yeah, and I think there's just certain things that your rational mind would never be able to fully process or comprehend. So you can try to like solve the puzzle
And the
mentally.
funny thing is, actually, I think when you try to rationalize, you're probably thinking about it through your ego,
Yeah.
right? And your ego might be trying to stop you from doing that, from succeeding. Like, let's say, this is some psychological thing where, like, maybe you have some trauma or something that's preventing you from doing what you want,
Yeah.
subconsciously, obviously. And when you're questioning your gut, it's basically your ego going against it,
Yeah.
right? So that's also kind of like, don't overthink it, because the overthinking part of you is the part that's trying to make you fail.
Yeah. So I guess last question as we're about to hit time here. If you could speak back to your younger self, say 10 years ago,
Hmm.
what do you wish what do you know now that you wish you could tell him specifically about taking risks, about kind of trusting your gut, about making decisions with incomplete information? What do you wish your younger self knew that you now know?
Mm, I actually do think I took a lot of risk in my decisions early on, which is funny. Like, now that I think about it, I'm
Yeah.
like everything I did, uh, especially during like my high school days, was kind of like risky stuff, right? That made me feel uncomfortable. Um, so some people don't know, but I used to, like, I went for a high school of the arts, so I was literally training to be an actor. So I was in theater, so I was putting myself out there on the stage in front of a couple hundred people, um, acting, and that was very nerve wracking, very risky. Like, the why most people don't do it, right? They're like, why would I do that? I just
Mhm.
want to be on my phone and not talk to anyone, right? Um, in terms of advice that I would give myself, I think I don't know. I kind of wish I took school more seriously. Like the academic part, it was pretty easy for me, and I think that's like I felt if I leaned into that, um, I don't know. I guess I could have had a lot more opportunities. But I mean, obviously in hindsight, it worked out, right? It didn't
Mhm.
matter. But um, I guess having that bit more knowledge, I think, would have been nice. But yeah, I don't know if I guess be more organized. I would probably say that too. Like,
Well,
nowadays, I'm kind of like working on that, right, to try to be more
yeah.
structured and more organized.
I guess yeah, maybe that's a better question is what lessons have you learned along the way that have fundamentally shifted your thinking as opposed to who you were 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think for sure the organization part of being organized. Um, what else? I just had one in my mind and I forgot
Yeah, I know
as we
you've
were
told me
speaking.
a lot of times before, specifically around the sort of like hard work piece and
Oh
looking for
yeah,
shortcuts.
yeah, yeah. I used to have this mentality of um I could get by just doing the minimum. And actually, now that you mention it, this was a thing all the way back in through my high school, like
Hmm.
growing up. I would do the bare minimum. I remember I actually in middle school, I used to be in a band, right? I used to play the flute. And I would never practice at home ever. I think I just thought that I was better than everyone else. I don't need to
Yeah,
practice. Why would I do this?
yeah,
Right? Like, I practice in school. Like, when you go to class, that's when I would practice basically. But like, no, I wouldn't practice at home. And then for some reason I would be jealous of there was one guy that was actually better than me. And I'm like, oh, what, you know, I didn't understand why he was better, but obviously it's because he actually practiced a lot. And I would just kind of fall back to saying, oh, he's such a tryhard, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, what changed in your career or in your life that where it kind of shifted that perspective for you?
I think as I started getting uh, more into startups, I started realizing that startups not going to work. if you're doing the minimum, or if you like, not even the minimum, if you're trying to like kind of game it, right?
Right.
You're trying to put in like 1 or 2 hours a day. I mean, you know, I'm sure a lot of people do this, but like in their day jobs, they probably like they just show up for their one call a day. They do a little bit of work, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's their day, right? And then they go to the gym at like whatever time, and they're kind of just on their phone, kind of pretending to work. Especially now with the remote culture, I'm sure a lot of people are doing that. Maybe they don't want to admit it, but I, I see you. Um, yeah, I, when you actually try to build your own company, you're like, that's not gonna fly. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You have to actually work very hard. Um, and it kind of becomes easier over time. The more you do it, it just becomes normal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you built the stamina for doing it. Also, you care more about the thing that you're solving in front of you. But I think it's also shaped like also the way we do recruiting, right? Like we hire very specifically for people that
yeah,
we can filter out for not having those traits of
yeah. If
just
you,
wanting the easy
yeah,
way
we
out.
can tell if you're gonna try to game us. Are you
Yeah.
gonna try to work 1 hour a day? We will not allow you to do that. Like, and
Yeah.
we're not being unreasonable here. We're saying yes, work the normal hours, but actually work the hours, right? Don't try to game it.
Yeah, look, my perspective on that is we're trying to build a world-class team, right? And
Yeah,
to build a world-class team, you need to have world-class, players in,
yeah,
playing your game. And, if you are at the top of your game, you're not going to want to, if you're an A player, you don't want to be in a team of B players, right? You
yeah,
want to be in a team of other A players that kind of
yeah.
feed off the same level of energy. So
It's also
it's
kind of
almost,
disrespectful to the
yeah,
other A players if you have any B players, because then it's like, okay,
correct.
well, why am I here?
Yeah. So really, it's all about kind of like raising the bar and then keeping the bar high and keeping everyone accountable. And I think the team's done a great job at sort of creating that culture.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, it was great chatting on sort of founder psychology over the last 30 minutes. I think learned a lot and enjoyed hearing the story about your past and your gaming fiasco, as you call it. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
My attempt at AI gaming.
yeah.
Maybe I'll do it again in the future. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
maybe. I mean, it's part of your DNA, I think, at this point to take additional risk, and
Yeah,
you know, it might not be rational, but hey, if your gut says so, then you might have to give it another shot.